Good afternoon, everyone. Notice of a public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a regular meeting on August 2nd, 2022 at 5 p.m. in the City Commission chambers located on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall, Old Federal Building located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Texas. Pursuant to Section 551.127 Texas Government Code, one or more commissioners or employees may attend this meeting remotely using video conferencing technology. The video and audio feed of the video conferencing equipment can be viewed and heard by the public at the address posted above as the location of the meeting. Members of the public, employees, and the City Commission may join via WebEx teleconference meeting by logging on at the link as provided on the agenda. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. At any time during the course of the posted meeting, the Brownsville City Commission may retire into executive session under Texas Government Code 551.071 to confer with legal counsel on any subject matter on this agenda, in which the duty of the attorney to the City Commission under Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Further, at any time during this meeting, the City Commission may retire to deliberate on any subject of slated for discussion at this meeting, as may be permitted under one or more exceptions to the Texas Open Meetings Act set forth in Title 5, Subtitle A, Chapter 551, Subchapter D of the Texas Government Code. Mayor, I see Commissioner Galansky Pisania present, Commissioner Tetro present, Commissioner Cowan present, Commissioner Gowan present, and Commissioner De Los Santos present. We have a quorum. You may call the meeting to order.
First item is invocation.
Invocation.
Pastor Brad?
Let's all stand for the prayer, and please remain standing for the pledge to the flags afterwards. Father God, once again, we thank you for the many blessings we have here in the city of Brownsville. And Lord, we acknowledge that as Americans, we do not always appreciate law. We do not always appreciate commands, but help us to realize that your law and your commands are for our own good. Bring us back to your word, Lord God, and to obedience with you so that you can bless us as a nation, as a state, as a county, and as a city. And tonight, in light of the proclamation, we specifically thank you for our relationship with Mexico. We ask you to continue to enhance it and lead and guide us in that. Lead and guide our mayor, our commissioners tonight, and everyone that presents anything for the very best for the city of Brownsville. We ask all of these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. And we'll have a short moment of silence where we can all add our prayers to what has been spoken. Amen.
Thank you.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee. Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Next item, we have proclamations. Proclamation recognizing and honoring Deputy Consul General Vladimir Hernandez Lara.
Consul, are you here? No, I saw you somewhere. Come on up. This is a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, honoring Deputy Consul General Vladimir Hernandez Lara. Whereas Deputy Consul Vladimir Hernandez Lara has served our community and region as a representative of the country of Mexico, our neighbors to the south, with distinction. And whereas Deputy Consul Hernandez Lara has been a presence in Brownsville, bringing the support of the Mexican government to local events which celebrate our heritage and culture, and fostering international relations between sister cities and our two nations. And whereas Deputy Consul Hernandez Lara, as a resident of Brownsville, has been an active patron of local events and local establishments, and is a productive and contributing resident of our city. And whereas Deputy Consul Hernandez Lara has been a beacon for the scores of Mexican nationals who are part of or who come through our local community in need of services and support from the Mexican government. And for those U.S. citizens seeking aid from or collaboration with the country of Mexico. And whereas Deputy Consul Hernandez Lara's body of work during his tenure leaves a lasting positive impact towards commerce, economic development, trade, and tourism between our countries. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city, and on behalf of all of our citizens, do hereby honor Deputy Consul General Vladimir Hernandez Lara, and further call upon the residents of Brownsville to do the same and to continue to emulate the spirit of friendship, which is synonymous with our region. Done on this the second day of August 2022 by myself as mayor and the rest of the City Commission. Thank you. I know that the Deputy Consul is leaving us here pretty soon on another assignment, but it's really, truly been an honor for me as mayor to work with the Consul, and he's been a friend to our city and been a friend to all of us. So thank you again for your service in your job, and also for being a great resident for the city of Brownsville. I believe we do have another presentation from the Senator's office. If you would, you can go ahead and, at the podium. That way we can hear you.
Honorable Mayor, Honorable Commissioners, Honorable Consul Hernandez Lara. Senator Lucio regrets that he couldn't be here tonight, but he had a resolution passed by the state of Texas Senate acknowledging all the great efforts that the Consul has done for the citizens of Brownsville, representing the government of Mexico, its people, its culture, and all the great exemplary works that the Consul has done. So on behalf of, I'm honored to present this to the Honorable Vladimir Hernandez Lara. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon to all of you. It is truly a pleasure to be here with you today in this emblematic building of the city of Brownsville. I greatly appreciate the invitation of Mayor Trey Mendez, Commissioner Roy de los Santos, and all city commissioners present here today. It's an honor to receive this recognition for my work as consul in this wonderful city of Brownsville. I am very excited to receive such a distinction as I am celebrating almost 30 years of diplomatic career. but I also wish to receive this acknowledgement on behalf of the entire staff of the Consulate of Mexico, since the achievement of the actions we undertake every day for the benefit of the Mexican community that live in Bronzeville and Matamoros is the result of the hard work and commitment of all my colleagues as a whole. These past 2 years have been a very special period of learning, both professionally and human aspect, as it has coincided with the 2 years of the terrible COVID pandemic, which has affected all of us in one way or another. Practically, all of us have lost a friend or loved one during this period. In this context, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the authorities of the City of Bronzeville, Cameron County, Customs Borders Protection, the Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, the social organizations, and all those who made possible the cross-border vaccination program that allowed the vaccination of thousands of maquiladora workers, teachers, and young children from Matamoros. I also want to thank the clinics and pharmacies that have made it possible to have weekly vaccinations at the Mexican consulate, benefiting sensitive sectors of the population, such as children, young people, and senior citizens. I consider the Bronzeville and Matamoros spirit of collaboration to be commendable. The Charro Days festivities are proof of this. I am especially grateful for the work done by the Charro Days, Sombrero Festival, and Amigo organizations. With regard to binational activities, we have also contributed to the development of binational activities, such as the Bebe Leche Binational Festival, with the direct participation of the city of Bronzeville and Matamoros. The Festival of La Catrina at the Market Square, as well as important exhibitions celebrating the Day of the Dead at the Museum of Fine Arts, as well as Bronzeville Historical Association, the Bronzeville Airport, along other exhibitions of Mexican artists in various venues. Other symbol of collaboration and unity is the mural a few blocks from here by the Mexican artist Sofia Castellano and Bronzeville students. There are other partners with whom we have worked hard during this time, such as the American Consulate in Matamoros, TSC, UTRGV, BISD, Proyecto Juan Diego, South Texas Promotoras Association, and the team of attorneys from the Legal Assistance Program, PALE. Just to name a few. A special thanks to my family for joining me in this adventure, to my wife, Paola Navarro Rodriguez, and my children, Diego and Ana Paula, who always bring joy and meaning to my life. Finally, I would like to mention the presence of some personalities from the Bronzeville and Matamoros community here joining me in this significant ceremony. Consul Yolanda Parra, I think, over there. My friends Hugh Emerson, Gerardo Acevedo, Julio Almanza, Rubén Herrera, Enrique Lerma, Juan Martinez, Diana Gonzalez, and among others. I am very proud and excited. Thank you again for your continued support. I will not say goodbye, but see you soon. Thank you very much. Viva Bronzeville.
Thank you. And Consul Parra, nice to see you. Thanks for being here.
Next item, we have work sessions. Item number 1, presentation on fiscal year 2023 budget workshop number 3, Financial Services Department.
We did have a public comment period. Was there anybody that signed up?
I'm sorry, sir. There were no public comments. My apologies.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Today, we are going to be speaking to you about the 2023 fiscal year budget. Most of when we talk about, the city has really looked at building its foundation, and I always talk about fixing the cracks while also accelerating growth as we look forward to our budget and how it grows. We are going to go over some general fund revenue highlights, in addition to expenditures, a proposed fiscal year 2023 budget, and in addition to speaking about other funds, including enterprise funds, such as our landfill. As you can see there, we have experienced growth. However, while we're the 18th largest city with respect to population in the state of Texas, we're in the top 25. Our assessed taxable property tax is still low. It has grown to $7.8 billion, so we've added to our tax base this past year, and it's been a good increase. But we still have to deal with service levels, given the population that we have and the land area that we have in our city. As you know, cities are capped by Senate Bill 2, so we'll be discussing how we are going to continue to propose a sustainable budget for this fiscal year. Next slide. In 2021, we created a 5-year general fund financial forecast, so we're really looking into our future. And we're here at year 2 of that financial forecast. We established new enterprise funds. Before it was intermixed, landfill was intermixed in general fund. You really didn't know how those different enterprise funds, bridge fund and landfill, was doing as a separate enterprise. So we took that out of the general fund budget and really identified that as an enterprise fund. We also took an approach of paying with surplus funding additional strategic automation plans or technology plans and capital improvement program through our surplus funding that we've received. So here we are in 2022. We used the second year of property tax rate. As you know, Senate Bill 2 did affect us in that year, not modestly, but this year you'll find a more significant impact on Senate Bill 22 and how it'll affect our revenue. We've maintained COVID staffing levels. We haven't really grown with regard to the number of employees that we have. We're still about 1,208 employees. We all also invested in technology maintenance of $1.3 million, and that really accelerates the efficiency of the work that we do. So if we're doing more with less, at least we're including technology to allow for better efficiency and transparency in government. We were lucky in our $16.8 million surplus, many of it from sales tax or other transfers. And with that, we accelerated deferred maintenance. We have about $168 million in drainage and about another $68 million in roads. So there is a big deferred maintenance price tag that we have, but we are chipping away with it as we can through our surplus funding. And as you recall, through the subcommittee on the budget, you created budget policy statements that you are implementing. As we look forward to the future of the city, we also should recognize the need to create a balanced land use base, which will increase our revenue with regards to our tax base. Here we are, as you see the pie chart on the right, you can see we're heavily residential with 72%. So we're always talking about increasing an industrial, commercial, or non-residential tax base because that's a tax base that will give you more return on investment with regard to property tax. We also are looking at SB2 impacts, our infrastructure needs, and also improving our service levels, which is so important as we continue to grow this community. Next slide. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Lupe Granado, Finance Director.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. Lupe Granado, Finance Director. I'll go over the next few slides. To continue on this Senate Bill 2 impacts, with the same trend as we did last year, we've added a line there where it's fiscal year 23. Just to summarize the activity on here, on fiscal year 20, even though we were not impacted by Senate Bill 2, we kind of determined what would have been the impact that would be there. $633,000 would have been the impact on there, and the maintenance and operation, reoccurring revenues we could have gotten. In fiscal year 21, we took a quarter-cent tax reduction. That would have reduced our potential revenues of $226,000. Last year, we took a slight decrease because of Senate Bill 2, which limits our M&O portion to 3.5%. And what we were at were 3.68%. This year, like Ms. Helen had said, this is a more significant impact. The biggest hit on this is on the experience on our Existing growth went up to 5.33%. That's capped to about 3.5%. That impact reflects about $1,015,000 that we're not able to recognize in M&O operations. So that's a big impact for M&O operations. Going back to the schedule here, we broke down the differences between the tax levied on new values. Those values, we could use them, those get added to our M&O computation. The expected levy existing properties, that's where new values are added to existing properties. The majority of this is due to the impact on the 5.3 is through just the market values of houses just appraised higher. Total increases there, amount committed to debt service and SBA. We need to, of the increase, we allocate a portion for our contracts and our debt service. The blue column that's there, this is a net available for general fund operations. Basically, this is to cover maintenance of buildings, personnel costs, M&O type of expenses. So we limit this SB2 limits our growth, the ability to actually use some of that revenue to address some of those ongoing issues, ongoing needs of the city. Again, projecting for fiscal year 2024, if we keep everything status quo up to 3.5%, we will be able to get about $389,000 for next fiscal year. Next slide, please. This graph is, again, a graph that we've trend the past history of growth broken up into two sections. The first, the orange section, is taxable growth on new properties, and the blue line there is on existing growth. As you see, what we want to better focus on is to trend the new property values up so that we could better have a more maintenance and operational costs for the city. Next slide, please. One of the big items that we kind of monitor and their significance to our property tax rate is freeze exemptions. They're significant exemptions, and they've incrementally increased. That's why we kind of point them out here to the best we can. On the freeze, these are applicable mainly to over 65 exemptions and disability exemptions. On freeze taxable valuations is about $856 million. The taxable rate that we're going to be proposing, the maximum that we can, is 69.1919. That's a slight decrease to our current rate. Applying that tax rate, our taxable values would have gone to about $5.9 million, but because of the freeze, we are only up to $4.9 million. This is about a $1 million loss or unrecognized revenue to our maintenance and operations. Again, a big portion is to exemptions to 65 and over, about 94%, and disability is about 6%. This is kind of eye-opening because of the last 5 years of the freeze taxable values. That values has trended up to about 6.3% year over year, and on the freeze taxable, it's trended up by 4.8%. Next slide, please. This bar graph represents the trending from past to projections that we have. The blue bar graph here has the freeze taxable values, potential freeze taxable values. Actual revenues are in the teal, and the green is what our revenue losses are. We for fiscal year 23 anticipate about $1,071,000 in lost revenues. I'm going to introduce Mr. Miguel Cavazos, our budget officer, who will go over the next slides.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. So this is our sales tax schedule. So this consists of our actuals, our projections, and our proposed budget. So as you can see, our sales tax has incrementally gone up throughout the years. As we mentioned in our previous budget work sessions, our year-to-date actuals for fiscal year 2022 is 27 million, and we project to have a 39 million by the end of the fiscal year. So consistent with the adopted policy statements, the city budget sales tax with a 2.5 conservative increase over the previous proposed budget. In the last couple of years, we have exceeded our projections, but since it's such a volatile funding source, we continue to budget it conservatively. So any excess revenues over budgets, we will then come back to City Commission to appropriate that as our surplus funding, which is what we have been doing in the past for the last couple of years, that we use to cash fund accelerating our deferred maintenance funds. So our general fund revenue highlights. For property tax, we project to have an increase of 1.2 million compared to a prior year budget. And for sales tax, we project to have a 821,000 compared to prior year budget last year. So we have a total of approximately 2 million. So for general fund expenditure highlights, like we mentioned, our main focus this year is compensation. So with that being said, we have a total of 3.1 million of compensation non-civil and for civil service entitlements. We are proposing a balanced budget of revenues, 113 million, and expenditures of 113 million. These are our proposed revenues for fiscal year 2023. In taking a conservative approach and aligning with our policy statements, we increased property tax by 3.5%. We increased sales tax by 2.5%. We increased franchise fees and miscellaneous revenues by 1%, and kept other revenues at a flat rate that gave us a total of 113 million. General fund for fiscal year 2023, the proposed expenditures. As you can see, the personnel services make up about 70% of our budget. To budget for the implementation of the compensation study, we used vacancy savings to offset the proposed budget expenses, which reduced the increased amount from 3.1 million to 1.15 million. Please note the decrease from the transfers out is due to a one-time transfer to capital improvement, infrastructure maintenance, and landfill. Our other funds proposed budget, which are our enterprise funds, we have, these are our street drainage and maintenance. We have revenues of 3.5 million. We would transfer in a 1.1 million, which gives us a total expenses of 4.6 million. For bridge fund, we have 2.4. We would transfer out 4.1 million. Now the transfer out for 4.1, 3.1 will go to general fund, 400,000 will go to capital outlay, and 600,000 will go to the fleet replacement. Now, even though we show a decrease in the fund balance, we do have a beginning fund balance that will offset that. Also, we have a 9.8 million of transfer outs from landfill. So this is our fiscal year 2023 proposed budget for all funds. 80% of the budget will consist of general fund and the debt service fund. The rest are pretty much under 5%. Please note that these expenses do not include transfers in and transfers out, and also it's pending the allocation of the hot funds. The budget process key dates, just want to mention that we did go ahead and file the budget draft to the City Secretary on July 29th, and it's also on the website. Today, we're on budget work session number 3, and we will be working on the public hearing for the approval of the budget. Does anybody have any questions?
Do we have any questions from the commission?
Just one. When we're talking about a balanced budget, that's assuming adoption of the tax rate we're going to be talking about tonight? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Next item, we have presentation on hotel occupancy tax funding for the fiscal year 2023, Communications and Marketing Department.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. I tried to keep this as short as possible. I know we've reviewed this already in the past. So I just put together a quick timeline of our large milestones over the last year. So we started with December, the presenting of the audit. Over January to May 2020, we were executing several agreements for this current fiscal year. In February, we met with THLA, at least the Audit Committee met with THLA virtually to answer any questions and concerns. In June, we had 2 workshops with THLA. They came down and visited us. They met with city staff, city commission, and then as well as the organizations. That was in June. Subsequently, we opened the Hot Fund application. The applications were open for about a month. They closed in July, and now we're here presenting the city commission workshop. The applications we received the ones that we've usually gotten. So Gladys Porter Zoo, the Camille Playhouse did not apply this year. Charities, Brownsville Wellness Coalition, Midi Cultural District, the Children's Museum of Brownsville, Brownsville Museum of Fine Art. As you can see, we had several organizations apply for additional funding. And what the audit committee did is review the applications to ensure that they met with both criteria 1 and 2 for hot funds. Additional applications received were the Brownsville Historical Association, the Brownsville Society for Performing Arts, Gorgas Science Foundation, which is Sable Palms, the Mr. Amigo Association, Holiday Village, Rav Run, and Sombrero Fest, and Brownsville Beer Fest. So the funding requests came in just over $2.1 million. And for available funding, we expect to have about $1 million in our projected fund balance as of September 30th. We expect a $1.8 million in revenue for fiscal year 2023, which is a 36% increase from prior years. We're very proud of that number and it's exciting. So we did increase the expenses. And then the total funding request came in at 2.1. So we do have a funding gap of $258,000. Additionally, the audit team did conduct some research across other cities similar to Brownsville as to how they allocate funding. Some of them use formulas and rubrics. And so this is just something that we wanted to present to you all to review in the next year. So we have information from Huntsville, Victoria, Alpine, Bastrop, Corpus, and Louisville. And next steps, our goal here today is just to gather feedback from City Commission to follow up with organizations and then finalize any allocations based on commission feedback.
I don't see that you have any sort of proposed funding allocations. Do you have anything like that, or are you waiting on something?
So we'll provide that at the next workshop, but our goal here today was to gather any feedback from you all as to funding allocations. Now we can make recommendations, but we wanted to hear from you all before we did that.
So who's in the audit committee?
Currently, we have myself, we have a couple representatives from the MAD team, we have Mr. Flores, we have Mr. Granado, and we have Commissioner de los Santos.
And is the criteria that y'all initially review the applications for, is that something that applicants are aware of, and it's a pretty objective criteria?
Yes, and so this one right here, like I said, all we've done right now is just to make sure that they meet the first 2 criteria. So the first one is that it promotes the hotel industry in some way, shape, or form, whether they contribute to hotel nights or they use the hotels as catering, conference rooms, that kind of stuff, and that they follow one of the 9 categories. And so, yes, we did meet with all the organizations with THLA to review those with them. So right now we have that they technically all meet to the 2 categories. We did have to follow up with a few of the organizations. We did have to, sorry, I guess I missed this slide. So we did review all the applications. Commissioner de los Santos abstained from the Midi Cultural District and Sombrero Fest. And then we received or requested additional information from BHA, the Gorgas Science Foundation, Mr. Amigo, Brownsville Society for Performing Arts, the Children's Museum, and the Midi Cultural District. They all provided that information. The only one that we were pending was the Brownsville Wellness Coalition.
And Monica, were the requests itemized as well as far as how they anticipate using the funding?
Yes, so they all had to submit a budget. The only one that did not submit a budget was the Brownsville Wellness Coalition, which is why it's pending.
Okay. And the requested allocations, do they meet the criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Monica, I have a question. I know one of the recommendations from the gentleman from the THLA was that all these nonprofits and organizations need to be able to track people coming in from out of town. So is there a consensus on how they're doing that across the board, or is each entity operating a different manner?
So each entity can track it however they would like. We did provide guidance through the Texas Arts Commission and THLA. They have a joint recommendation for how to spend hot funds and how to track it for arts organizations. And so we did provide that to all the organizations. And then on another note, the CVB are working on getting a software that tracks that data as well. So that could, once we get that on board, that will alleviate that.
Great, thank you.
Do you have any concerns from any of these entities being able to actually substantiate the criteria or substantiate the actual data?
I think that's what we've spent this last year doing,
Right.
really solidifying it. I think it's just making sure that we're getting the quarterly reports and really sticking to the process that we've spent this last year or so creating, and then just continuing to build the relationships and make sure that any concerns that we work through them together and really continue to grow through the hot application process.
I'll be honest, I would like to see significant change. Last year was very problematic, or there was a lot of complaints about the process. And while I do feel that you're trying to work with the entities to try to be more transparent and communicate expectations ahead of time, I would like to make sure that they do feel that they're not being isolated, right? Or
Absolutely.
Another question, did Camille Playhouse just not,
They chose not to apply for funds this year.
is this because of the clawback in the past?
I
No
couldn't
idea.
tell you why. We do have a Camille item with the zoo in a little bit, so I did invite them to join us so they could potentially speak a little bit more as to why they chose not to.
Thank you.
And let me say on that, there was never a clawback. There was never a recommendation that funds be clawed back, nothing like that. There was a perception out there, and we know that people were saying they were being asked to repay the money. That recommendation never came from the audit committee, and that recommendation was never approved by the commission. There was no clawback.
Okay, well, let's see what y'all come up with.
Okay.
I'm not exactly hearing any suggestions from the commission, so let's see what y'all come up with.
I would just like to see that everybody is followed up with and that all of this money is utilized to the best possible way. Yeah, thanks.
the other thing, in this presentation, there's no inclusion of the CVB, and CVB does get an amount of
Yes,
the hot
we did
tax.
not submit, we don't submit an application. We haven't done that in the past. The CVB did not ask for an increase, but that funding is included in the available pot.
So within that 2 million, 2.123 million, that includes what CVB would like to
Correct.
have?
And the breakdown for what CVB will do, and that'll be part of the budget process as a whole.
Correct. We submit our budget with the other city departments.
All right, thank you.
Next item, we have consent agenda items.
Do we have any motions?
Oh, I would like to move to take some things out of order, or consider some out of order. That is number 1, number 9, and number 11, please. And I'd also like to congratulate the library department for their grant of almost $250,000. I think, yeah.
Is that a motion, Commissioner?
Yes, please.
Is
So
there a
I'll move
motion?
to accept the consent agenda except for number 1, 9, and 11, which I would like to have considered separately.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Item 1. I did see that there was an error on the minutes regarding an appointment, I believe it was from Commissioner De Los Santos, that needed to be edited. I don't know if you found something else, Commissioner?
On the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee, mine was reappointing Victor Alvarez.
Yes.
And yeah, the minutes show Frank Rispoli, who was appointed by Commissioner Galonsky. So Frank Rispoli showing on there twice right now.
Yes,
And then
we did.
I did submit my request to change Mariana Chavez instead of Frank
yes.
Grizzly because he declined my invitation.
We did those corrections.
Okay, so with those corrections then, will you move to accept?
Those are correct, except I need to abstain because some of the items within the minutes, I have a conflict of interest.
Okay. So then do
And
we,
with those, I'll move to approve the minutes as corrected.
we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And then Commissioner Galante is abstaining?
And I'll abstain for the other two as well because I have a conflict of interest.
Okay. Was that the only issue, Commissioner? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve items 9 and 11?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Commissioner, if you can hear us, you can come back out. Door's not even closed yet.
Next item, we have public hearings. Public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 2022-1033-C, amending Chapter 14, Aviation, Article 2, Sections 14-56 through Section 14-64, Aviation Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Sean Kelly, Assistant Airport Director, and Mr. Brian Walker, Airport Director. We're here to talk about an amendment to the Airport Advisory Board. Quick summary of our changes. We'll be proposing the amendment to Chapter 14, Article 2, to bring the Airport Advisory Board ordinance in alignment with the City of Brownsville's policies regarding boards and commissions. Some key highlights are to provide remote options for meetings, correct number of members to the ordinance, and then amend the board meeting frequency. The Airport Advisory Board reviewed this in the June meeting of this year and recommends these changes. Any questions?
The meeting frequency, Sean, was it bi-monthly? Is that right?
It originally was once a quarter and is going to bi-monthly.
Okay.
I've got a few questions on these and a few concerns, actually. Starting, and I'm looking at those as part of the ordinance section. The first one I highlighted is section 1461, meetings A. Airport Advisory Board shall meet bi-monthly during the calendar year or whenever necessary on call by the chairman and in consultation with the Director of Aviation. It's a better practice, and this is just my feedback for boards, that if board members also want a meeting and you've got a chairman who's resisting that, there should be some type of provision, like 2 or 3 board members can request a special meeting if necessary. That's just a suggestion. Then item C, members who are unable to attend a meeting in person shall, on request and approval of the board chair, have the option of joining the meeting by phone or internet via conference. That gives the chair a lot of power, and that it could be used arbitrarily. If you've got 3 members asking for that privilege, the chair could say yes to 1 and no to the other 2. That I don't think we should design our bylaws like that. I think there should be a provision that allows for remote attendance or does not allow for remote attendance, but to leave it at the will of one person on a case-by-case basis, I think that's a mistake. And let's see. That's it. That's all I've got.
We'll bring that back up with the next board meeting.
This is a public hearing. Do we have anybody here that's going to speak on this item?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close public hearing. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, do we have any motions on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Discussion, are we talking about approving as is then without the changes?
Commissioner?
I understood he was going to bring the changes back for another.
This is the first reading, so it allows for us to approve this, subject to those conditions.
Very good.
That's how I understood it, but thanks for the clarification. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing number 2, public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance 2022-1569-C, amending Chapter 102, Utilities, Article 3, Rates and Charges, Section 102-114B, which provides for water and sewer rates and charges to provide for adjustments to rates for water and Services to implement a rate plan, setting a public hearing thereon, and providing its availability, clause, and effective date. Brownsville Public Utilities Board.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Commissioners. My name is Mike Perez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. The BPUB sells treated water on a wholesale basis to three water distribution companies, that being the Brownsville Navigation District, Military Highway Water Supply Corporation, and El Jardín Water Supply Corporation. Now, Chapter 102, Section 114 of the City of Brownsville Code of Ordinances presents the wholesale water service rates. Now, these rates apply only to B&D and the Military Highway Water Supply Corporation. There is a subsection under 102, 114, subsection B, that pertains solely to El Jardín Water Supply Corporation. So this subsection of rates for El Jardín were not updated in the original ordinance, number 1701, that was approved by the City Commission on first reading on April 19th and on second reading on May the 3rd. The omission was caught after the fact. So the BPUB Board is requesting the City Commission to amend Section 102-114, subsection B, of the Code of Ordinances to adopt new rates for El Jardín Water Supply Corporation. The updated rates for El Jardín Water Supply Corporation incorporated the same water rate increases that were previously approved by the City Commission, 8, 6, and 4 and 5%. So El Jardín has been advised and is fully aware of their wholesale water service rate increase that is forthcoming. Now, the reason that El Jardín has separate water rates is their rates were established pursuant to a settlement agreement in which El Jardín provides some water rights to the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. Any questions?
Okay, is this all? Is there any more that are hanging out there? Did you check? Did you make sure?
This is it. Yeah, we checked when we were incorporating the new updates to the rates. We realized that El Jardín rates had not been adjusted. And so at that point, we did get a final report from our consultant, and then, it's when he actually included them in there. So
Okay.
yes, this is the final.
Okay.
I apologize for the mistake. on
Well,
our
the
part.
consultants missed it also, so it wasn't just y'all. All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item?
I'll make the motion to close public hearing.
We have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, do we have any motions on the item?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike, John.
I couldn't make that need motion.
Next, we have items for individual considerations. Item number 1, consideration and action to acknowledge the Cameron Appraisal District Chief Appraiser Certification of the City of Brownsville's 2022 Tax Roll Financial Services Department.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Commissioners. I have two presentations. The first one is just a general overview of the truth in taxation or the tax code. How do we apply the tax rate? The truth in taxation process is governed by the Texas Constitution, set out general requirements in truth in taxation. It's under Chapter 22. Basically, there's several steps that we need to follow. We need to draft the budget, calculate the rate, publish notices, hold public hearings when needed, and adopt the rate formally. We draft the budget. You have to calculate the maintenance and operation expenses. This is basically the general fund budget expenses, and then calculate the debt service requirement or the debt service fund. One of the requirements that we need to have the certified appraiser certifies the taxable value properties. Certified tax values were received July 23rd. We need to calculate the two rates, the no new revenue rate. This is a rate that will provide the taxing entity with about the same amount of revenue it received the year before on the same properties. There's a lot of computations here. Properties get added and deleted, so there's another worksheet that I'll go over that kind of illustrates that. The second rate is the voter approved rate. Now, voter approved rate's a little bit, the name itself is a little bit off, but that's the way it was introduced. Meaning this is the rate that anything above this rate is what requires a voter approval rate. So we could go up to this rate with no problem. The maximum allowed without voter approval, the portion of the rate used to retire debt could go as high as it needs to in order to cover your debt. The portion of the MNO or the general fund, you're restricted to 3.5%. In case of emergency declarations, you could go up to 8%. We need to publish notices in the newspaper and on our website on the proposed rates. We need to hold public hearings. We need to hold public hearings if our rate is going to go above any of those two rates that I mentioned before. And then formally, we need to adopt the tax rate by ordinance. You can go ahead and go on this one. Do you need to read it? This is already read? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Just a brief overview of this. The first three items are pretty much just acknowledgement items, but just go over them real quick. Basically, the chief appraiser needs to certify the tax roll for the city. The page on here indicates the actual certification by the chief appraisal. On this one of the points to make out here is the approved net taxable values were about $8.4 billion. That's an increase from last year's of about 7.9 billion, or about 625 more added valuations. There's broken down the added valuations between existing and new property. But this is just to certify that we're using this report in order to compute the two tax rates. But Owen needs an acknowledgement on this.
What does ARB stand for? ARB, approved market value. What is ARB?
It's under their board review.
Appraisal Review Board.
Yep.
All right, this is an action item to acknowledge number one is consideration and action to acknowledge the Cameron Appraisal District Chief Appraiser's certification of the City of Brownsville 2022 tax roll. Do we have a motion to?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Item 2.
Action item number 2, consideration and action to acknowledge the collector certification of the estimated ad valorem tax debt collection rate for tax year 2022 and the excess debt tax collections for tax year 2021. Financial Services Department.
This is a second certified document that we received from the tax assessor collector. These numbers are used to calculate the tax rates, and this is just an acknowledgement item. Basically, our anticipated collection rate, they're the assessor collector, they anticipate our collection rate of 98.2%. And the excess debt collection, basically that's how much more we collected in debt service compared to what we said we did. And these are factors that go into the calculation.
I'll move to acknowledge.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Action item number 3, consideration and action to acknowledge the finance director's calculation of the city's no new revenue and voter approval tax rates for the tax year 2022 or fiscal year 2023. Financial Services Department.
Every year, the finance department is tasked to calculate these two rates. We work in collaboration with the appraisal district and Cameron County assessors to get it's a 9-page document that we really need to identify which of the values need to be filled in. The main purpose of this one is on the right-hand side is to identify what the no new revenue tax rate is and the approval rate. The no new revenue tax rate is at 0.658861. And the calculated voter approved rate is about was 0.691919. One of the items to point out on this one, that the rate is going down. There's two components, main components that make this so. Sales tax, city collects 2 cents on sales tax. Half a penny goes to the economic development boards, BCIC and GBIC. 1.5 penny is retained by the city. When the city elected to increase it, there was a property tax relief. The half a penny was going to go to a property tax relief. So as part of the process, we identify what we're going to get in sales tax because we did so good in sales taxes. Sales taxes are going up. That actually triggered our M&O because we're getting more sales tax, which a portion of it is to help offset the property tax rate. That's why it drove down the M&O rate about 1.4 pennies. That's one of the factors. The second factor is debt service. Debt service from last year to this year grew $1 million. So that means our debt service rate grew up about 0.9 of a penny. The net effect of this is half a penny decrease, the net decrease on this. That concludes. Do you have any questions? And this is just, again, to acknowledge just the calculation.
I'll move to acknowledge.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Item number 4, consideration and action to discuss a possible ad valorem tax rate increase and to authorize a public hearing on August 16, 2022 to discuss the proposed ad valorem tax rate that will exceed the no new revenue tax rate. Financial Services Department.
On this, there's no formal action and taking any action on the tax rate. This is just to have a public hearing. So there's no formal action on adopting any rate. That would come in the public hearing. What I'm going to go over is just general information on the calculation and the effect of that. Terminology under SB2, no new revenue rate, voter approved rate. And the no revenue rate is basically, again, rate that will provide the same amount of revenue on property taxes in both years. Voter approved tax rate, this is a maximum allowed without voter approval. The debt rate may raise as high as it needs to. The M&O portion, that's the one is restricted to 3.5%. It used to be 8%, now it's 3.5%. Significant impacts or significant changes due to SB2. Pre-SB2, the tax rate, the M&O rate could grow us up to 8.5%. If we exceeded, we never did, but if we exceeded it, it would trigger the voters could petition to have a rollback rate. They could petition to it. What happened with post SB2 is that if we go above the 3.5% on the M&O, it actually triggers an automatic election. It's not up to the voters. It actually triggers election. The second item was on the debt service portion. The debt service portion, it used to be, it was a non-factor, basically, because we certified at 100%, that was it. When you went to SB2, any excess collections, we need to compute it to the debt service rate in the current year. That's the controllers certifying the excess collections. Well, that wasn't factored in the past, now it is. The third item is, this is a good portion of it that came about it, is the difference between the preceding year's voter approved rate, that's the maximum rate, the 3.5 rate. Any rates above that, any rates that we approve below that, the difference we could bank it for following year. So if we had an opportunity to increase it a penny, but we didn't, we could always bank it and use it in preceding years. This is a tax rate. Current tax rate is 0.697113. It's broken up into M&O general fund of 0.441967, debt service 0.255146. The no new revenue rate, that's again no. They just need to know how much revenues you're going to raise in the 2 years, fiscal year 22 and 23. The M&O rate actually went down to 0.394281. The debt service rent went up to 0.264380. The voter approved rate, this is the maximum rate that we could approve. As you'll see, it's about half a penny decrease from our current rate. So what we're proposing right now is to approve a rate that's lower than the current tax rate by half a penny. The breakdown on that one is between M&O's 0.427539 and debt service rate 0.264380. This is analysis on properties, is what is the taxable value on home residence? Last year, the the taxable value was at $105,505. That increased about $7,150, or about 7%, to about $112,655. What does that mean? As far as the tax increase from the current rate, if we adopt the no new revenue tax rate, as opposed to the current rate, there'll be a decrease to the taxpayer about $43.32. If we approve the current tax rate of 69,713, there'll be no tax changes. If we approve the tax rate of the approval rate, the tax rate will decrease to 0.691919, or reflect about $5.89 savings for that property tax. Again, right now, we're not asking to take actions. We're just asking that because we're proposing a rate that's above the no new revenue rate, that we're required to hold a public meeting. Today, by vote or by public hearing, we're requesting that the public hearing be met on August 16th to discuss a possible tax rate that exceeds the no new revenue tax rate.
This is an action item. Do we have any motions on this?
I'll move to authorize a public hearing on August 16, 2022.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can I have just, from all that you said, is this the right synthesis? So basically on August 16th, you want us to consider one of those three tax rates? Is that a fair assessment or no?
A tax rate that the maximum is 0.691919. That's the
Which is
maximum.
the current one?
We could approve anything under that, but we can't prove anything above.
Correct. Okay, so we stay with the tax rate that we have right now, or we do the voter approval one, or we do the other one?
Sorry, to clarify, no, we cannot stay with our current rate. If we do, we need to have an election.
Okay.
So the maximum that we could do is the second, which is 0.6919, which is half a penny.
The voter
That's the
one.
maximum we could do. We could do anything under, we're not proposing that, but we could do anything under that, but yes.
Right, and Commissioner, I think Commissioner De Los Santos asked earlier whether that percent, or the 6.6919 was what we were basing our budget on. That is what you're basing the budget on, right? So
That is the rate that we're proposing, that we're basing our current budget on.
So that's all the questions I had.
okay, we did have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Item number 5, consideration and action on resolution number 2022-045 to approve the presentation of the City of Brownsville's allocation of the Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnerships Program, and Emergency Solutions Grant, funding by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the 2022-2023 one-year action plan. City Manager's Office, OSI.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. My name is Nayeli Trejo. Today, I will be presenting the City of Brownsville's annual action plan for the 2022-2023 program year on behalf of the Office of Strategic Initiatives. To receive our HUD funding, the city must complete and submit a 5-year consolidated plan and an annual action plan. Our annual action plan provides detail on our use of HUD funding for that given year. The city is currently in its second year of the 2021-2025 comp plan. This year, our HUD allocation between all 3 programs was $3,872,782. On this slide, you'll see a few project highlights made possible with our HUD funding. Here is a brand new home constructed by Brownsville Affordable Home Ownership Corporation, who received home funding for their new construction project last year. B Metro used CDBG capital funding to construct new bus shelters off of Southmost Boulevard. Good Neighbor Settlement House received ESG funding for their street outreach program, in which they distribute pantry bags with food and toiletries, as well as make referrals to much-needed social services. Our Community Voice campaign kicked off its 9th annual year in November 2021. This campaign ensures our residents of Brownsville are able to actively engage in making recommendations for our community improvements. The results were considered by our technical review committee during the application and award process. You'll see the top Community Voice campaign priorities listed on the right-hand side. The Office of Strategic Initiatives received 23 applications for funding. 19 of these applications were recommended for funding by our technical review committees. The total amount requested was just shy under $8 million. The city recommends the following projects for home funding: Brownsville Affordable Homeownership Corporation for their new construction project, Community Development Corporation of Brownsville, known as CDCB, for their home buyer assistance program, and the City of Brownsville's administrative cost at 10%, for a total home allocation of $1,032,530. The City of Brownsville recommends the following CDBG capital improvement projects: the City of Brownsville Fire Department for an acquisition of a fire pumper, the City of Brownsville Multimodal Transportation Department for their bus stop and sidewalk improvement project, the City of Brownsville Engineering and Public Works Department for their drainage and street improvement project, the City of Brownsville Public Library Southmost Branch for their Makerspace Laser project, as well as the City of Brownsville for administrative cost of 20%, for a total CDBG capital allocation at $2,388,174. The City of Brownsville recommends the following projects for CDBG social services: Moody Clinic for their rehabilitation services for children with special needs, CASA of Cameron and Willacy County for their foster care program, Sunshine Haven for their palliative care services, Tip of Texas Family Outreach Center for their child care services, and Amigos del Valle for their senior services, for a total social services allocation of $222,500. The City of Brownsville recommends the following projects for their Emergency Solutions Grant projects: the Good Neighbor Settlement House for the Homeless Management Information System, HMIS, and street outreach programs, the Ozanam Center for their HMIS, emergency shelter, and rapid rehousing programs, Friendship of Women for their HMIS, emergency shelter, and rapid rehousing programs, and the City of Brownsville for their administrative cost, for a total ESG allocation of $229,578. This is our ongoing timeline for the funding process. We listed a public notice in the Brownsville Herald and began our 30-day comment period on June 26th, and it ended July 27th. We held 2 public hearings in July at each public library location. Following your approval, we will submit our annual action plan to HUD no later than August 16th. After our submission, in approximately 45 days, HUD will provide its approval and our recipients will begin to receive its funding. Thank you so much for your time and your dedication. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Can you turn your microphone on, Commissioner?
How many houses does Brownsville Affordable Homeownership Corporation do for the 729?
For the 729, they do, I'm sorry, you said Brownsville Affordable?
Yes.
They'll do new construction of at least 5 single-family homes for about $150,000 for each home.
Okay. And so they just build it, or do they provide the down payment assistance?
And that one is a new construction project.
Well, they'll go ahead and build the property, and once the house is built, we do provide the down payment assistance for the potential buyer.
And then you use the money that's left over, they circulate it to build more houses?
Yes, so basically the profit, we provide it again to the program itself, and they start building more houses. And they'll provide the down payment assistance as well.
Okay, cool, thank you. And then, normally, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this the part where Planned Parenthood sometimes gets money, but maybe this year they're not?
Yes, Planned Parenthood has been a recipient of our funding for the last few years. They elected to not submit an application this last year. They were, and as a grant recipient, sometimes you receive additional funding, and some funding is more streamlined to their purpose, and so they elected to not submit.
Okay. And then there was one, for drainage and streets for the city. How much are they going to do for 725? Because
So our City of Brownsville Engineering and Public Works is receiving 725 drainage and street improvement. I can tell you how many streets, but I will let you know that we, a caveat of the CDBG funding is that it's a timely funding amount source. So some projects, when they have leftover funding, we're able to shift into the priorities. And streets was a priority for our community. And so we've been able to give that engineering project over $2 million in the last recent years. And so we do have a very strong relationship with our Engineering Public Works Department. As we complete the funding that we've been awarded, we can add additional funding as they add additional streets.
Teodoro, is that the list that you emailed us like a few weeks ago? And I think it was Coolidge and a whole bunch of District 2 and is
That's
that?
what we recently completed with the funding that was allocated. This is new funding. We'll be publishing a new list for 2022-23.
Okay, cool, thanks. It does have to meet the criteria for census tracts and eligibility.
Yes, it does have to be in a CDBG eligible area and meet at least 51% low to moderate income population.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, do we have any motions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item, consideration and action to approve resolution number 2022-047, submission of Texas General Land Office 2018 South Texas Floods CDBG DR Infrastructure Competitions Grant application through the Texas General Land Office Community Development and Revitalization, Paredes, Engineering and Public Works Department.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. We're here before you today to request your support in the resolution for a grant submittal to General Land Office for $1 million. Our city match is $57,000, and what we'll be looking to do is to concrete line the ditch on Paredes Line Road by where Beagles is at, all the way to Perez Elementary or Renfro Avenue, depending on how much budget we consume. The reason for choosing this particular stretch is we have very limited access for maintenance, and it's very difficult for our crews to go in there and maintain it, so we're looking to concrete line this section. And we're seeking your support for this application.
Do we have any motions?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Dodo, do we know when we'll hear back on this?
Do you know when we're hearing back? Around October?
Okay, thanks.
I'm glad to see it's happening because not only is it going to be easier to clean, it's really eroding. So that's going to make a big difference.
These two projects are based on flooding that occurred in 2018. They had to have had significant flooding concerns or issues for us to be able to apply for these grants.
Will it alleviate the flooding that happened in the apartments in that Resaca area?
It'll help convey water. Not necessarily, it just depends on the amount of rain, but it should alleviate it.
Thank you.
Item number 7, consideration and action to approve resolution number 2022-048, submission of Texas General Land Office 2018 South Texas Floods CDBG DR Infrastructure Competitions Grant application through the Texas General Land Office Community Development and Revitalization, Southmost, Engineering and Public Works Department.
On this particular item, similar to the other one, it's for a $1 million GLO grant application with a $57,000 city match. In this particular one, we're looking to concrete line a portion of the ditch that's actually already concrete lined. But once again, the access is very limited, so we're looking to raise it all the way to the top. The reason for that is, once again, the limited access, very limited right-of-way. As you can see in the pictures, it's very heavily overgrown. It's very difficult for us to go in there and maintain it. And once again, we're seeking your support in this grant application.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Item number 8, consideration and action to approve a promoter and license agreement between the City of Brownsville and SMM Marketing for Inter Milan versus Chivas Guadalajara Women's International Soccer Match, Parks and Recreation Department.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. We are really excited to be able to bring you this opportunity and this contract for the Brownsville Sports Park. We're also excited to invite the community to come out to this professional women's soccer match. So we're great to be able to host this and all our surrounding communities. So we encourage everyone to purchase the ticket sales pending your approval of the contract, of course. So this is for your consideration. It's between International Zal Milano and Chivas. It's a promotional agreement. We're working with SMM to bring this event here. It'll be at the Brownsville Sports Park, August 10th on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. The tickets are reasonably priced at $38 per ticket. The city has done considerable promotion as well to help push this event and get people to come. Our grandstand capacity is about 5,000. And they'll be working with us to host kids clinics. And we have free open practice to ticket holders. So those of our soccer fans, please come out. We're going to have some clinics for you. And then just the promotion agreement covers revenues, fees and expenses, ticket sales, team expenses, the communication, advertising and sponsorship, broadcast rights, the use of intellectual property, force majeure and indemnification, and of course, confidentiality and non-disclosure agreements. And so we're really looking forward and invite all of Brownsville and our surrounding neighbors to come celebrate with us this wonderful event.
I would add that they did, in speaking with the promoter today, they did state that they would be willing to get more kids to attend. They're going to, any kid that is 8 years and under will be allowed to get in free. So, I mean, they're seeing it more as a community event. Of course, all ages are invited, but they really want to get the families out. So I thought anybody 8 and younger gets in free to the event, of course, accompanied by an adult. Thank you.
Did the repairs that we approved a while back, did they get made already?
They're in progress, if not mostly completed already. So yes, thank you for helping with that. They're just doing the final touches, and the goal is to have everything done by Saturday.
Okay. And then, council, did the agreements get signed?
Only the promoter agreement, not the license agreement, which governs the actual use of the premises.
Okay, so what we're approving then is the license agreement as, I guess, as proposed by us at this point?
The promoter agreement has been signed, the license agreement. We haven't received anything back from the SMM, but you could approve it subject to negotiations with the CMO's office and the city attorney.
Okay, because the way I see it, it's approving a promoter and license agreement. There's one that's already in existence today, so I'm assuming that's what we're approving. If we need to change language to approve anything else, then I would suggest you let us know.
There is, so the promoter agreement and the license agreement are two separate agreements. So the promoter agreement was agreed upon, and that just covers the promotion of the event. Like I said, sponsorships, team's expenses, but actual use of the facilities is a license agreement. We submitted a version maybe a week or so ago, and haven't received anything back from it. We're expecting that some version of it will be signed, but we haven't received any communication back from SMM.
Okay, my only concern is if we approve this item today and there's a change, I don't know whether it's going to require any additional action on our part. That's kind of what I'm asking.
Oh, if you approve it contingent upon just blanket negotiations, we'll try to get it as good as we can.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
you
it's
can approve it subject to city attorney and city manager reviewing it.
Okay. Do we have any motions?
I'll move to approve, subject to any changes being approved by both the city manager and the city attorney.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, consideration and action to approve a free game day shuttle service for Inter Milan versus Chivas Women's International Soccer Match, multimodal transportation.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Jenny Garcia from Multimodal Transportation. The City of Brownsville will be hosting its first international women's soccer match, and B Metro would like to provide a free game day shuttle. It will be a park and ride from the Sunrise Mall. There is a correction on here. It does say main event, but it will be behind Cinemark Theater. It will go directly to the sports complex from the Sunrise Mall, and it will be, the schedule of service will be 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m., and it'll run every 15 minutes. So staff is seeking approval for the free game day shuttle.
How are you going to advertise it?
We are posting a park and ride signage outside of the parking lot at the Sunrise Mall. And then we'll have a frame lined up in the parking lot to show where to park.
Okay.
And
as well as
communications and
social-
marketing could also, as part of all the promotion, they're also advertising it.
Because there's not a whole lot of parking on that side of Cinemark.
I'm sorry?
There's not a whole lot of parking behind Cinemark.
We have identified a significant amount, a good amount for parking.
You're satisfied
We
that's
can-
going to be enough?
I think we can provide an overflow if needed.
Okay.
Is it Cinemark or main event?
Well, she
Cinemark.
said they switched it
Oh,
to Cinemark.
I missed that. I'm sorry. I agree with you.
I mean, it's
It's
a
always
pretty big
tight.
area that's always empty.
It depends on the time of day, because I park there pretty often on that side, and there's only, it's much, much smaller than behind main event. I'm just trying to get out ahead of this. Y'all may have problems, so I'm just trying to look out for y'all, but if you're happy with this, then we can do it.
No, that's great, but we'll look at an overflow parking and then make sure we're promoting that area of parking with A-frames as well.
Yeah, and if you don't promote it, there won't be anybody anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, do we have any motions on this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Item number 10, discussion and action to approve resolution number 2022-046, appointing individuals to serve on the rotating list of outside counsel as prescribed under section 38-196 of the City Code of Ordinances. City Attorney. It was tabled on July 19, 2022.
Mayor, Commissioners, we just need a motion to remove this from the table.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
We need a motion to remove this from the table, and I can address it.
I'll move to withdraw from the table.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right.
Mayor, Commissioners, just as a follow-up from the last City Commission meeting, we had 2 names presented, but in order for us to proceed with the next steps and actually putting this list into effect, we needed the remainder names if possible.
One of them is mine. And I would move to appoint Liliana Elizondo.
It was Liliana Elizondo?
I can't hear you.
Liliana
Elizondo.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion?
Well, I think we're going to do them all as a group, aren't we?
We can go one by one or all together. Each one has an appointment, so it might be more efficient if we just do it all together.
Okay. So we have Liliana Elizondo. Who else?
Ruben Herrera.
I'd like to appoint Michael Rodriguez.
Michael Ruiz?
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez.
Well,
I need one, but I wasn't here at the last meeting and I'm not ready yet.
Okay, what we'll do in your case, we'll add your position into the rotation list, and then at the next meeting, you can appoint them.
And I'll have Michael Gonzalez.
okay.
I'll
So we
move to
have-
approve the nominees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the nominees, which is Liliana Elizondo, Ruben Herrera, Michael Rodriguez, and Michael Gonzalez?
Yes.
Okay. We had a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 11, consideration and action to reimburse Gladys Porter Zoo and the Camille Players, Inc. for $448,724 and $21,250 respectively in hotel occupancy tax of eligible items for fiscal year 2022 as budgeted. Communications and Marketing Department.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. So as a result of the audit from last year, we had made 2 recommendations for the Gladys Porter Zoo and the Camille Playhouse. And so I come to y'all today to reopen those 2 for this current fiscal year that we're in. So for the Gladys Porter Zoo, the findings were the memberships were ineligible, salaries were paid a high percentage of a HOT, and that we couldn't determine whether they were directly associated with promotion of tourism. The Gladys Porter Zoo had also requested an extension of 90 days to submit quarterly reports. They had several reports that had not been submitted at that time. The recommendations as a result of the findings were to extend the existing agreement with the Gladys Porter Zoo with the undistributed funds and for them to provide the quarterly reports on time and in full. So the steps taken has been that all the reports have been submitted. The positions funded are exclusive to marketing. They provided the job descriptions and all the information necessary. And as a part of the fiscal year 2022, there's an employee log/report required with all quarterly reports. Are there any questions for the zoo? We do have them here with us in case there's any questions for them. The next one we have is the Camille Players, Inc. So the findings that we had were the visitor data was incomplete and the marketing was exclusively within the Rio Grande Valley. Our recommendations were for fiscal year 2022 to extend the existing agreement with Camille Players, Inc. So that undistributed funds could be used in compliance. We also asked that they use hot funds to be used outside the Rio Grande Valley for marketing and to provide a detailed report for visitorship. The steps taken for them has been, we've provided that joint recommendation of how to accurately, or different ways to accurately collect visitor data. And this one was the THLA and with the Texas Commission for the Arts to better track visitors. And then we've spoken about the marketing efforts and eligible expenses. And so there have been some local marketing exceptions made at high tourist locations, including hotels, airports, and locations that have high visitorship. Are there any questions for those?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So this is just findings from what they had applied last year, and so.
So when they applied last year, we had, before we allocated funds, we did the audit. And so as a result of the audit, there were some things pending. We didn't have all the information to ensure compliance. And over the last few months, we've been able to do that with both organizations. And so now we're coming back to the committee. We did budget for both of these organizations to receive funds since they applied for the funds. And so now we're asking to reimburse them for any eligible items up to those dollar amounts.
But they've already submitted the documentation necessary to qualify for this funding.
They have not submitted the current year's reports for reimbursement, so they'll submit that, and then based off of the eligible items, they'll be reimbursed. So they submitted everything for last year that was pending, which is why they had this result as a finding.
But then right now, they're still not entitled to a disbursement.
No, they would have to submit the reports that demonstrate how the funds are being spent because the fiscal year already ended. For all the organizations, or it's close to being ended, for all the other organizations that we did the funding approved in December, they received it monthly, but since the fiscal year is about to end, we thought it would be the easiest to do a reimbursement, catch everybody up, and then enter into the new fiscal year.
That's the part that I don't understand. You're saying you're going to give a reimbursement, but there's not going to be a disbursement.
If I could comment on that, and I understand it's confusing. I think where the hangup is today, if they were to turn in all of their financials and everything qualifies, comms and marketing or CVB still can't cut a check to reimburse them for anything because the commission has not approved reimbursements for 2022. So that's all they're asking for tonight, is that we give them the green light, and then as those reports come in and they see that they're qualified, then they can release the funds.
Yeah, I thought the same as Commissioner Galowski because it was put as a reimbursement, so I thought it had already been earned. But if that's the process, okay. So you're setting aside the money for them to show that it was spent in compliance with this?
Yes.
All right.
So it'll be as of October 2021 to September 2022, so the current fiscal year that we're in.
But, and this is for fiscal year 22, but I thought that some of these entities still hadn't even received the application for fiscal year 22 and all the qualifications.
That's fiscal year 23, the upcoming year.
This is 21 to 22, I believe,
Yes.
correct?
Okay, so they still have, or, okay, so this is for this year, because when we met, didn't some of them say that they hadn't even received an application for?
Yeah, I believe this is what this money is for. Since they are here, is this correct? This is the money for the 2021 that was never.
Step on up to the podium if you're going to speak, please.
This we can't
Yeah,
hear.
speaking from the crowd doesn't work.
Please.
I think the confusion is that the word reimbursement should be just disbursement.
Disbursement.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking at 3 fiscal years, and I think that also is where we got a little stuck. But we've already resolved fiscal year 2021, and we'd like to resolve fiscal year 2022 before we get into fiscal year 2023.
Okay, well, I would like for the entities to be able to receive the money when they're entitled to it, if they meet the qualifications. But the thing is, I can't believe in that we're backtracked or backlogged 3 years, because that's a lot then for these organizations to have to wait for, like, if they're
They're
getting.
just backlogged 1 year, the current year.
Yeah, 2021.
Pero todavía ni han recibido.
It's all they're missing is 2021.
Yes.
Everybody else is like basically done with it at the moment, and they would receive it once they just turn in, this is what I understand, some receipts or invoices.
Correct.
That demonstrate they used it on the new stuff, including airport, which I believe is used airports, hotels.
Correct.
So they are good with this now.
Yes.
Both entities are good with it.
Are you, Cynthia?
With what's being proposed tonight.
With what's being proposed tonight. If not, I mean, please come up, because what we want this is to get better. I see the zoo saying, yeah, please.
So basically, I believe as soon as we receive a contract, then we can negotiate on what's acceptable. And so we haven't seen we haven't agreed upon what is acceptable yet. So, and what you're talking about is since last October, November, December of last year, and then January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So those are the months that are pending, and then we still have a few more months to finish what would have normally have been allocated to us. So that's what she's talking about. So it's just this current year.
But you have not received any funds from fiscal year 21 and 22, and now it's already time to apply for 22, 23? Or like, is that what was just closed?
What was pending, the 300,000, we did receive it. We submitted our paperwork, and then they dispersed the funds a few months ago, I believe. And then, but right now, what we're talking about is what was in the budget for 2022 fiscal year, this year money, which this year that hasn't ended yet. So if we can get our contract before the end of the year, then we should be good. We'll see.
Since when?
We've been in negotiations the past year. We never received anything for 2021, 2022. Fiscal year 2022. Money.
That's the year that we're talking about.
Yeah, we have not received.
Yeah.
You did
The same.
recently.
The confusion here is they had different situations. So Camille had received all of their funding because they did submit their reports. There were just items that we couldn't identify as eligible. For the Gladys Porter Zoo, they had not received all their payments because we hadn't received their reports, so that funding was not dispersed for last year. But now they're all up to date because they submitted their reports. Right, yes.
So we're coming here before you so that we're able to disperse and work
the
with
current year.
them and be able to kind of clear up the fiscal year 2022.
I have a question. Why is this an action item if it's already been approved previously?
It wasn't approved as it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Victor, because what we had brought was different recommendations as mentioned here.
Yeah, what we approved last year, John, was to grant new monies for all the entities except these two. For these two, we were extending their contract to use the old monies, but we had not approved release of the new monies. So now that everything's good on the paperwork, now we're talking about approving the new money so they can be released.
And is it true that if we don't pass this, then it's only going to delay dispersing the money even longer?
Correct.
And I'm sure that if there's any issues, we'll hear about it. Thanks, y'all, for being here. Okay, do we have any motions?
I think we already moved and seconded.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Next item, board appointments. Item number 1, consideration and action on resolution 2022-038-A to appoint 1 new member to the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, GBIC Board of Directors to fill the existing vacancy. The item was tabled on June 7, 2022, City Manager's Office.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the commission. For your review, this is the current slate for the board members. We currently have a vacancy that we hope to fill tonight, and these were the applicants that were submitted. Ms. Anna Oquin was a late submittal, so we were unable to capture all of their data, but the application is in.
And so I believe it's my appointment, and I appoint Anna O'Quinn to take my place.
We have a motion or nomination
this-
from Commissioner Galansky.
This item was, I'm sorry, this item was tabled just as a formality.
So I'll move to untable it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to untable. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Commissioner,
And then I'll appoint Anna O'Quinn to take my place.
we have a motion for Anna O'Quinn. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have discussion on this item.
Go ahead.
I think it's completely improper to even consider appointing Anna O'Quinn to this position. Anna O'Quinn was on the PUB board and had a deadline to file her financial disclosure and absolutely failed to do so. And where other board members resigned when they did not want to file, she did not. She served out her term. And I've had board members and constituents asking me, why are there two sets of rules? Why were we told there's a deadline, you must or else? But someone like this gets to not follow the rules, not follow ordinance, and not only is allowed to stay on the board, but is now going to be rewarded by being appointed to another board that controls millions of dollars of taxpayer money. I've got a serious concern, and when we've had discussions where we're talking about privacy for wealthy constituents, and then we see behavior like this, and the return is new appointment for a fantastic board, I think that sends a horrible message to the public.
Commissioner, have you spoken to her about the financials?
I believe that she submitted a request through her attorney to a city attorney for further clarification about something. And I don't know if they're still waiting for the response. That's what I've heard. But given that I never really wanted to give up this position, I'm okay with staying there. She's my appointee. She's the one I want. If you don't like her, then I get to stay because I never wanted to.
No, ma'am, that is not how the law is interpreted. You do not get to stay if she doesn't qualify. And you can ask the attorney about that. That is not how it works.
First,
Counsel.
to answer the question about I do remember that their legal counsel did reach out to me about I'm not sure if it was this particular one, but there was one that had an issue about submitting their personal finance statement. It was my recommendation to them that they still had to submit it. I think there was an issue as to whether it had to comply with the same standards that this board does. But once we went back and made those revisions to make it less burdensome on the applicants, that was a moot issue. I'm not sure if they've, do we know if she's filed anything since then? I'm not aware that she has.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, so I was asking Yoli if she had record of her filing anything since then. I don't think she has, though.
And no, she's not. I know I checked with staff earlier today.
She hasn't, we haven't received any financial disclosure from Ms. O'Keefe.
And at no time did she request an extension from the office like other applicants
Not
have done
at-
either.
Whatever she requested when Ms. Morgan presented on June 21st, whatever, yes, that's the information we have.
So counsel, if Ms. O'Quinn's appointed, she doesn't fill out a financial disclosure, then what is our ability as a commission?
So, 156A says before initially accepting appointment or assuming the duties of office, those persons are required to file a
Okay.
PFS.
So that's actually a condition to the appointment.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
But
That's
she's
good.
allowed to take office even if she hasn't filed it yet, correct?
That's not the way I understand it.
Would it reset the clock on how long she's got to file her personal financial statement?
This is for an initial board, so there's actually two. It says before initially accepting, and then it has the and annually thereafter. So technically, she could be appointed, but she can't sit on the board until that PFS is filed.
That works.
And is there a time frame? So we don't have one person.
Not as written, but what it in effect does is it remains vacant, essentially, that nobody can sit in it until she as a PFS.
Okay.
And
When
if
is-
she's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When is your next meeting?
To have a board member appointed.
Yeah, but when is that?
I'm sorry.
When's your next
Your
scheduled
next
meeting?
We have it at the, August 18th.
August 18th?
Okay. I don't anticipate that it can't function with 6 members. I think the commissions or the board's been functioning pretty well. So, being that it doesn't really technically vest until she fills out the PFS, I'm okay with the appointment. I think actually she wouldn't be a bad member, but that was the only concern. So, all right, I believe we had a motion in a second.
do.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
We have one nay, Commissioner De Los Santos, and the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, consideration and action on resolution number 2022-034 to appoint 4 members to the Brownsville Border Film Commission Communications and Marketing Department.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. We came back with the appointments for the Brownsville Border Film Commission. This was a board that we've been having some issues with quorum since about December. As per the last time we were here, we did go back to the board, and as per the City of Brownsville Board Appointment Policy, we did have a few members resign due to inactivity, or they submitted their letter of resignation. And so we have 4 board appointments, one for Mayor Mendez, one for Commissioner Golansky, and one for Commissioner Tetra, and one for Commissioner Cardenas. And here are the applications that we've received.
Did the individual that I had appointed, did she resign? What happened?
She did not respond to
Okay,
any.
so she didn't apply again?
No.
Okay. Can you go back, please?
Mhm.
It doesn't list the districts on there.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't list the districts.
We have the districts for those who submitted it.
Right, but on the existing ones on the slide ahead, you don't have districts, so it's kind of hard to know what's missing.
So we have them by board appointments, not by district, so just by each commissioner.
Yeah,
But
I
we
understand. I
can-
was just trying to get
We
a
can,
little
we
bit
can
better
address that and
representation.
fix it.
All right,
Is Rosalinda Williams the same person that applied?
Yes,
like
she's
it.
still on the board. She just already had submitted her application.
it does show that her term expires in a couple weeks, so.
Yeah.
So does she need to be reappointed then?
I don't know if we can reappoint before it expires or how it works, but we can do that. She's been a very active board member. Mhm.
Victor, can we reappoint a board member before they expire?
There's nothing stopping that. It'll be effective today.
Or just saves an agenda item in the future, maybe?
Yes.
I'd like to appoint Michelle Garcia.
Michelle Garcia? Okay. We have a motion for Michelle Garcia in a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Can you go to, it looks like Commissioner Golansky, Commissioner Tetra, and I are the ones that need appointments. I'll go ahead and I'll nominate Cornelio Newell. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Cornelio Newell. The only guy from District 1. Or Commissioner, if you want to appoint him, since he's from your district, I can appoint someone else.
I want to hold my spot because I don't know anybody here.
Okay. So then Commissioner Golansky and Commissioner Tetra will, I guess, wait till the next meeting?
I have a lot of homework.
All right. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Then we can go ahead and put Ms. Williams up for reappointment next meeting as well.
Item number 3, consideration and action on resolution number 2022-036 to appoint or reappoint 1 member to the Brownsville Public Utilities Board, PUB City Manager's Office.
Commissioner Cowan, this is your appointment. I guess nobody's going to present anything.
Sure, I'd like to appoint Joseph Holman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Joseph Holman. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, consideration and action on resolution number 2022-051 to appoint one additional member of the City Commission for a total of 2 members to the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, BCIC, Sports Park Committee. City Manager's Office.
Is Corey Pena here from BCIC? This is a request, as you know, in trying to get the sports park to be more revenue generating and have more events, which is the one we have announced today. We created in May, they created a subcommittee and asked the city commission to be part of that and some staff. So it's comprised, and the point of this subcommittee is really to look at, what can we do to enhance the sports park? What can we do to hopefully master plan it? As you know, the city owns the facility itself, but there's land that surrounds it. And so when we were looking at that in May with the former executive director of BCIC, we talked about the importance of creating a master plan or a concept of how do we move forward. For whatever reason, the committee hadn't met as yet. And so one of the recommendations of the new executive director is for an additional commission board member to be part of the committee. Because at that point, they have I think they were looking at 2 to 3 board members of BCIC, and we had one, which is Commissioner Gowan. But the question is, would we want to include another commission board member? They had talked about possibly Commissioner Cowan, if he would be interested. However, we're coming here before you to ask if you'd like to, one, include additional commission member on that committee. Committee does include someone like our Parks Director as well, and Rick Vasquez because of a master planned process. So that's just it's an ad hoc committee. So basically after they come up with recommendations, they would present to you, they would present to the BCIC board, but it's really trying to get some sort of vision and future for the sports park. Because as you know, it has a cost of about $750,000 a year. And so we really need to find a way we can generate some revenue in there and maybe a future plan for that park, the surrounding area. So that is just I'm speaking on behalf of the Corey Pena and myself when I'm talking before you.
When was the last meeting? There hasn't been one?
I'll nominate John Cowan.
All right, we have a motion for Commissioner Cowan. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Mayor, it is now 6:47. Would you like to make a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We'll recess the executive session.
For the record, the commission may consider the following items during executive session. Executive session number 1, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.074, personnel deliberations related to city manager selection and transition process, including but not limited to selection subcommittee reports, if any, and other legal matters related to the same. Executive session number 2, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney to discuss legal issues, if any, with the city attorney, and 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. To deliberate the purchase, sale, lease, or value of real property where deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the city in negotiations with a third party related to Project J. City Manager's Office. Item number 3, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney to discuss legal issues, if any, with the city attorney, and 551.072, deliberation regarding real property to deliberate the purchase, sale, lease, or value of real property where Deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the city in negotiations with a third party related to Project Brew. Item number 4, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, consultation with attorneys, Section 551.072, discussion related to possible exchange, lease, valuation, or sale of real property, and 551.087, economic development to deliberate regarding the offer of economic incentives to one or more business prospects that the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city related to Project Studio. Item number 5, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.076, security audits. Okay, it is now 8:01.
Welcome back. We're back from executive session, and there is,
Mayor Commissioners, this is my recommendation. There's no action on any of the posted items for executive session.
all right, there being no action, do we have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion and a second. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Stand adjourned. Thank you.
It is now 8:01. Meeting adjourned.
Bye.